Hi, welcome back. I hope you've are enjoying my little video shows or podcasts or whatever you want to call it. So, in today's episode, I've got Alison, and she's been working in the travel industry for something like 41 years. She's traveled the world. She's something like 68% of the world that she's actually been to. And she's come on today to actually share some of that experience about what she's done in the past, how she's been dealing with the lockdown. So I'll pass you over to you. So Alison, welcome and thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Graham. So here I am. 41 years in the travel industry. I visited 68% of the world. Very lucky to be able to have done that. I started my career in retail with Lumpoly and was there for over 13 years. Left and moved to the US for a while and then came back, continued my career with various travel companies. P&O, I worked on cruise ships
Wow.
with Swan Hellenic, which was really fun. We worked in the office. I ran the fly cruise team, and then 4 times a year we were able to go and actually work on the ship. So we saw the other side of it, which was really nice. From there, I then went to work for a travel company called Travel 2, Travel 4, who were a huge consolidator for the travel industry. So we didn't deal with the public, we dealt through the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, we were relocated to Glasgow and I decided not to go. And then I went to work for a company called Wakefield, who were a private travel company. And I headed up the VIP team there. About 56 staff I had working for me at one point,
Wow, that's impressive.
just on that team. And we looked after A-list celebrities. We just basically did everything. We was more like a concierge. So if clients wanted restaurant recommendations, we would recommend restaurants, we would book them. We would basically do everything for them. I then took a bit of time out, and 3 years ago, I was approached by Travel Counsellors through LinkedIn. Was I interested in becoming a travel counsellor? I had a few friends who were travel counsellors and had said to me, you should do it, but I had to have it had to be the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Manchester, spent the day there, was very impressed with the setup, the system, just the support that you get from head office. And then decided, yes, this is what I wanted to do. And I started my course in May 2017. And I've been travel counsellor ever since. And I have to say that I love it. I love the flexibility it gives me working from home. I love the fact that I've got my own clients and I can really get to know my clients. And I think that that is the difference, is the personal side of it. Just like I always, we have a great system at Travel Counsellors where things come up like, oh, in 8 days' time, it will be Graham's birthday. So sending a birthday card to somebody, just giving them a quick ring to see how they are. I don't feel pressurized with sales targets. Everything I do for myself because I want to and for my clients.
That's fantastic. I mean, I was going to actually ask you what is so unique about it, and you've kind of covered it in that it's a very personable industry to sort of be involved in.
Yeah.
I mean, what inspired you to sort of get into the industry in the first place? I'm sure when I was back at school, I never dreamed that I would be in photography and video and things like that. What was the driving force behind it?
My brother was 20 years older than me, and he used to date a lot of cabin crew, or in those days, glamorous air hostesses. And I remember being 5 years old and sitting in the room that we're actually in now, because this is my old family home that I'm now moved back into, and saying to my mum, my dad and my brother, I'm going to work in travel when I leave school. And that's what I did. I would say that probably my brother had quite a huge influence on what I did. And he travelled a lot, lived in Spain for 2 years when people just didn't do that kind of thing.
Mm,
So I would say that he was a huge influence. Sadly, he passed away when I was 16.
I'm sorry.
Um, but I feel that he would be very proud of me.
Yeah.
My mum also was a big influence. You know, she encouraged me to travel from when I started work. And I remember we have these trips, they're called fam trips, and the airlines, hotels, tourist boards arrange them. So they're like you go and you basically see what they can offer, and then you come back and you sell it to your clients. And we used to get like 2 a year free. And then there was this one that I wanted to go on, and I think it was about 120 quid to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And
Whoa.
and I didn't have the money. And she went, "Don't worry, I'll lend it to you. You need to go." So
Oh,
I feel that, you know, she was obviously a big influence as well. And then my first boss, Julian Cartwright, who actually I am still in contact with, and recently, well, did book his holiday, but sadly was meant to be going next week, so it's had to be cancelled. But he was a very big influence for me, because when I first started out, I knew nothing, and I think he had a lot of confidence in me. And if you've got somebody like that, then it does really open up doors for you. I knew that I could do the things that my goals that I had. I knew that I could do them. So yeah, and then I would say the last person that really had a big influence, but obviously not personally, because I don't know him, is Sir David Attenborough.
wow.
I was lucky enough to travel to Rwanda 9 years ago
Really?
and be probably only about 6 foot away from a 25 stone silverback.
Crikey.
Mm.
That's some experience. I'm very jealous.
Yeah,
Very jealous.
and also I was lucky enough to travel to Papua New Guinea and be one of the first Western people to actually travel into a village where they had never seen white Western people before.
Really?
Mm.
How did they react?
It was really funny because the kids were coming up and they were like touching your skin to see like if it could change colour.
So,
Um, and the women didn't wear any tops, and they had these carpet bags. The bags were made out of like carpet around their necks. And I said to the guide, I would really like to buy one of those. Could you find out how much it is for me? So he said it's 100 US. I was like, no, I don't think so. Anyway, we managed to get it down to 30 US. So, which I still thought was quite a lot of money, but I really wanted the bag. Anyway, the lady took the bag off, handed me the bag. It felt very heavy. And I looked in the bag, and up the corner was a baby.
no
And
way.
she was actually selling the bag with the baby.
Oh no. I bet that was hilarious. Well, it wasn't, I probably wasn't hilarious at the time, but
It was a bit of a shock. And I said to the guy, there's a baby in the bag. And he went, well, yes, that's why she wanted $100
that's
to
what you
start
thought.
off with. Anyway, I said to him, I really want the bag. Can't take the baby. But yeah, so I got the bag without the baby. But yeah,
Sorry, that's
very,
just hilarious.
very random travel experiences. You know, that's just a couple. I could go on forever, but you know, I think also that's what makes it unique when you book with me, is that, you know, I quite like to tell those stories.
Mm.
And people will often say to me, oh, I want to do something like wacky. And I think, you know, can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. For me, that's the kind of thing that I really like to do. But every booking that I get is treated the same, because for that client, that's their important holiday, their time, what they've saved up for.
Yeah, I love the approach that you take. It's very personable. You're looking at after people on an individual basis. It's not booking it online with the the big the big travel agencies and stuff. I really
Yeah.
quite actually admire that the way that you work there. So brilliant. That's a great story. Great story. That's really tickled me, that one. So John, coming back to the modern day now. So what's the last year been like for you? How's the industry going? Pre lockdown, pre COVID. What's the how's it been? How's it going for you?
Pre-lockdown, it's still been quite strange. Obviously, we had Thomas Cook. They
Mm.
ceased trading back in October. Flybe, obviously, they've gone as well. So there was quite a lot of changes. I mean, the Thomas Cook thing did not affect me because I didn't have any clients that were booked on Thomas Cook. But for the travel industry, that was a huge loss. I mean, these guys have been going for over 150 years. To have that kind of that chunk of that taken away from the travel industry was huge. As travel counsellors, we were very, very supportive with the Thomas Cook family. We opened our doors in Manchester for people to go and have open days, discuss with the HR team and the training development team if they wanted to become travel counsellors. And I know from that, there was a lot of support given. That's the one thing I will say about travel counsellors. The support that they give you is phenomenal. They're always there for you. And, that was a big thing. So I would say for us in the industry, the things started to turn from about October, sadly. With the Thomas Cook, then with the Flybe. For me personally, this was starting out, 2020 was starting out to be a fantastic year. January, my sales were 3 times what I'd done last year. February was a bit quieter, but I felt that people were booking earlier, so they were tending to book in January rather than, February. March started out great with some fantastic inquiries that I knew would have turned into bookings had this not all happened.
From your experience in the travel industry and your experiences of traveling, I mean, how much of an impact has this had on you and the industry itself? I can imagine it's been massive, with traveling.
Obviously, starting in the industry in 1979, I've gone through everything from the collapse of Laker into Sun, to First Gulf War, 9/11, and more recently the ash crisis.
Oh yes.
The ash cloud crisis, which was actually 10 years ago this month. I headed up the crisis team when I was at Wexus for the ash cloud problem. We thought that was bad. But, you could have a client in Spain and they'd say, well, I can't fly home. We'd be like, no, don't worry. We'll get you a train from Madrid to Paris. Then you can get the Eurostar or do whatever. We had clients that were renting cars from Italy and driving to Calais, leaving the car, then picking up another one. Brilliant. So although we thought that this was probably the worst, by far it was easy compared to coronavirus. The fact is that there is complete lockdown and you can't travel anywhere. Repatriation flights are still happening, but are few and far between. Obviously now most people are back where they should be or in the places where they should be. I think in the beginning, if we're all, if I'm going to be honest, people would say to me, oh, my holiday in May, and I'll be like, I'm sure it's all going to be over by then. And here we are looking at probably the earliest June, if we're really honest here. It's like nothing that we've experienced. And in the beginning, I think the difficulty was that there were so many different policies from airlines. If we'd have had a generic policy and it was the clients got a refund or the clients got a credit voucher, it would have been a lot easier to deal with. But at the beginning, it was like every airline had a different policy.
Oh,
And literally, the policies were changing overnight. And, it was very hard to keep the client updated because it was hard for us to be kept updated all the time.
sure. Yeah.
So I think, it is easier now, and the policies seem fairly generic. And, as we move on, they're becoming more clearer. But in the beginning,
Oh,
it was just very difficult.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, I suspect your stress levels were going through the roof because you'll have clients wanting to know what was happening. You're trying to get in contact with the airlines and all the other vendors and businesses. I mean, it must have been. I'm glad that it's kind of settling down, but is it still kind of crazy out there other than the airlines?
No, not really. We're very lucky because we have a crisis team at head office.
Right.
So basically, they brought in people from different departments in Manchester, because although we're home workers and we own our own businesses,
Hmm.
Travel Counsellors as a company, the head office is in Manchester. We have 7 other offices around the world. So they do all of that kind of backup admin support type work. For them, they were putting together policies every day, and we have coronavirus catch up every day where we have a communication email that comes round, and there are links to that if airline policies have changed, or if operator policies have changed, then we can see those. We have TCTV every day, sometimes twice a day. So
What's that, sorry?
that's Travel Counsellors Television.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, our CEO, he will go on and he will, have a slot on that, and then we have various different people. We have people on Monday from the accounts team just highlighting on the refund situation. And things like that. It's fairly consolidated, and the information is to hand. But in the beginning, for those guys up in Manchester, constantly updating, constantly changing the situation. And it's really strange because we work in the travel industry, we always work advance, like people book sometimes on cruises 2 years in advance.
Mm.
If you've got a big group going, you're going to start working on that maybe 2 years in advance. But when it actually came to the coronavirus situation, it was literally anybody traveling within 7 days. After that, it's like 10 years away, So
Chaos. I mean, I know. Obviously, I know you other than this show, and I just remember that the stress that you were going through. But I'm glad that it's settled down a little bit there. So, I mean, what are you doing now for your clients? I mean, how are you? You still in contact with them? What are you
oh
doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
The most important thing for me is to keep in contact with my clients. Sadly, I've had to cancel quite a few trips because where the airlines have cancelled or the tour operators have cancelled, and my clients weren't able to rebook, or they didn't feel comfortable to rebook a new date at that time. So I understand that. So they're kept up to date with the refund situation. And I just, send out just one-liner emails going like, how are you? Stay safe. If you need anything, I'm here. I've had quite a few clients that have amended dates. So they've moved it to like September or October. I've got one client who was due to go to New York to see her daughter in March. We moved it to next week. Sadly, Virgin have cancelled the flight. So now I'm like, do you want a refund? And she's like, no, I don't want a refund. Put it into the credit pot. And because I'm going to go somewhere, not sure where or when, but yeah, it's just important, to keep in contact with your clients, the ones, and, even I've got clients that are traveling in August. I'm just sending them quick little one-liners going, If you need anything, I'm here. But so far, the holiday's still going ahead. And the feedback that I've been getting is, thank you so much for just checking in on us. And, you know, you wouldn't get that if you book direct with an airline or, you know, a tour operator. And that's where that's the difference. And I've always said that out of a crisis, something good always comes out of it. And I remember when we had Ash Cloud, and there was a lot of clients there who said, we would never even dream now of booking direct with an airline or something because you've helped us. And I think more importantly is just to have somebody on the end of the phone. I mean, I was working until 10 to midnight the other night trying to get somebody back from New Zealand, and did do it. But then they rang me and said, actually, we've decided we want to stay here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And at 10 to 12, we were cancelling seats, putting the refund through. But that's fine because that's what they wanted. And that's what I'm here to do, is to help my clients, service my clients, and go beyond.
That's so good. It's so encouraging to hear that kind of dedication that you have for your clients. I think that's it, and for me, it makes perfect sense to go to somebody like you, because I can imagine all those people who've gone direct, they've had no contact, or they find it very difficult. You know, it's like anything. You ring on there, you go on those. You have 10 minutes. There's 400 people in front of you on the slot. I can imagine it's really, really frustrating to have you. It's like I can imagine that being. You know, I think from what I've learned, because, and this is obviously what you did. I didn't book through you. We'd booked to go away next month.
Mm-hmm.
You gave me some free advice. You gave me advice about what, you know, who to do and the options. And, you know, I followed that, and we were, you know, very lucky enough that we got a full refund on our flights. So, you know, obviously thank you for that. That's great. And I think from now going forward, I will always be coming through to someone like yourself. Well, to you, because I know you now. And I think it makes sense to do that purely. And I think this isn't over. This is going to carry on. There's going to be more of this. And as you say, that people are more cautious about it.
I think so. I mean, you know, for example, with the Thomas Cook situation, when people had booked directly with Thomas Cook, you know, I heard that way back in March, some of them were still waiting for their refunds. Yeah. Now, if you had booked with us and with me, we would have transferred your holiday over that same day to another supplier or whoever. Obviously, any extra you'd had to pay, any difference would have been refunded. So, you know, in a situation like that, you wouldn't have to have done anything. And again, head office kicks in, everybody's working 24/7 to, you know, to make sure that the clients are happy and updated. And this is just the most important thing, is like, even if you haven't got any information, just go back to the client and say to them, I'm still waiting, but I'm here. If you need me, call me. Because the one thing that annoys me more than anything is when somebody A, promises me that they're going to give me a call and they don't, or B, does not keep me updated, and then I have to go and read about it or learn about it through either the media or social media or something like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, what would you say right now is the best advice for anyone thinking about booking a holiday, other than, of course, coming to you? But what would your top advice be in terms of, you know, how to, you know, what sort of insurances they would need, or, you know, is anything that you can give away to help people now?
I think obviously to book, the number one thing is to book with somebody like me, because let's be realistic here. I think there's going to be, I don't think we've seen the end of airline failures. And so if an airline goes down and you've booked direct with them, you've got all that hassle. So if you've booked with me, that's all handled for, we deal with all of that. I would probably say to people, think about more traveling towards the latter part of the year, and maybe if you want to do something really special, look at it for next year and then see how it goes. And obviously, if you've got a bit of spare cash or whatever, then have a quick breakaway, or even stay in England. I book UK holidays as well if it sort of gets to about September, because there are restrictions obviously on UK travel as well. If it gets sort of like to about September and they want to go away, maybe do a UK break, but certainly think about more towards the latter part of the year and maybe consider next year as well. I do feel that the world is going to become less accessible. That is my personal opinion. I think that travel over the last few years has become a bit blasé. We go for quick weekends to Croatia, to Montenegro, we even go to Vegas for a few days or whatever. When I first started out in the travel industry, people had their 2-week holiday, which they saved up for. And I personally feel that it might go back to that.
Interesting.
That's my own personal opinion.
But it's an opinion worth listening to, given your experience in the industry. So it's
and I actually think it's rather nice, because I think to travel is exciting. It's kind of romantic. There are some people out in that world that don't appreciate the culture, the way people live. We need to go back and we need to start realising that when we're in Rome, we do as the Romans do. If you're going to go somewhere, then embrace the culture, embrace the country, embrace the people.
Definitely.
2 of my top things that I did, well, obviously the gorilla trekking was amazing, but on that trip, I also spent a day in a school in Uganda.
Wow.
Teaching kids about London.
Brilliant.
And I also spent a day in an HIV clinic in Uganda as well. And those were such precious days. And I would definitely say to people, that's what travelling's about.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do that, rather than, we're just going to take a weekend break to Rome or whatever. I get exactly what you're saying.
For me, those kids hanging off of me while I'm in the school, that was a privilege.
Definitely.
To go and see how they've done this amazing clinic in Uganda for HIV and also full-blown AIDS patients. For me, that's a privilege. They let me come into their lives, and that's what travel's about.
Definitely. I like that as well, that it is a privilege to be able to do that. And it's going to be interesting, certainly over the next few years, how things change, and it'll be really interesting to
I definitely feel, and I think for me that's a positive, and I would love people to go back to having one really special holiday a year where they save up, they look forward to it, and then take a UK break like we used to years ago. That, to me, that would bring back the kind of like romance, the kind of just mysteriousness of traveling.
It makes it special again.
Yeah.
So special, but really special.
Yeah.
Totally get that. If people want to work with you or to find you, how would people find you? How would what your contact details? I mean, I'll share them in the post and on the links and stuff. But what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get hold of me is my website. If you just put in Travel Counsellors Alison Kent, and then it throws me up, and there's blogs on there that I've done, and they're not just overseas. I've done blogs for UK trips that I've done as well. There's also my testimonials in there from my clients. That's the best way. I do have Facebook page, Travel Counsellors Facebook, Alison Kent. I also have my own Facebook page and LinkedIn, but really the website is the best. So it talks about me, what I've done. I need to do some more blogs. I probably should start doing some more now. I've got some time. But I just want to say that, like, I have a repeat business of 68%,
Wow.
which I think that's pretty good going.
Well, that's the social proof right there. If people keep coming back to you, you've got to be doing something right. I think that's a great summary of your skills, your knowledge, and what you do for your clients. I think it's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that you'd like to give a shout out to? Anybody you want to thank?
Well, I'd like to thank you
You're welcome.
for allowing me to do this. I really do appreciate it. I'd like to thank all my fellow travel counsellors and the head office team, because we do work as a family, and my family and friends that keep me sane, I guess, over the last few weeks. And also Brian at BBN,
Brilliant.
who's been a big advocate, particularly recently, of what I've been doing. And I've really got into the BBN networking and feel that now I'm part of the family there. And obviously I've seen bookings come through and people have mentioned me and things like that. So I'm hoping as well that will carry on, and we can all work together, because it's really important at this, particularly in these difficult times.
Agree with you. The networking for me as well over the last sort of about 4 or 5 months have been fantastic. I've got to meet you guys and Brian and so many different businesses, and it's been fantastic. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for that, and that's definitely worth giving credit to. Yeah, it's a powerful thing, and long may it continue.
Absolutely.
I mean, thanks ever so much for your time, Alison. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and you giving out so much great advice, and the whole concept of you being a personal travel counsellor. I think that's it's something that I never even thought of until I'd actually sort of got to know about you and what you do. And I can assure you, the next time I book a holiday or a flight, where I'm definitely going to be coming to speak to you. So any sort of final words you'd like to give anybody listening or watching this would be great.
Just like to say, if you're given the opportunity to travel, take it, embrace it, because travel is the only thing that you buy that makes you richer.
Nice. I like that.
And I feel that I've been so lucky to travel to places that people only dream about, and I only dreamt about, but I did it. And I mean, my last probably quick line was, I met Judith Chalmers about 10 years ago at a conference, and she is still my hero. And we got chatting and we had a few drinks, and the next day she actually introduced me onto stage at the conference as a person who travelled more places than she had. So that's my claim to fame.
You beat Judith Chalmers on travel, and she travelled a lot. I remember
she did. Yeah, she did. So I would like to say, Graham, thank you very much for taking the time out to interview me. This is the first one that I've ever done, so it was a bit scary, but I've really, really enjoyed it. And I really look forward to working with you, because I think that we can bring some good things together. I'd just like to say a big, big thank you to you, and to everybody. Stay safe.
Absolutely. Stay safe, everybody. Really, again, just finally, thanks ever so much, Alison. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you. And, I'm going to be doing more of these. And with each time I'm meeting someone new, and we're getting better and better at it as well. So take care, and thanks ever so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.